Are you ready for another episode of Biz Dev Live? My name is Cameron Toth. I'm coming to you today with Matt Baier, a master of organization. If you want to be more productive in your life, it starts with an organized space to work in. Clutter does not help you become more productive. Sorry to break it to you, my folks that have clutter living on your desk and in your space. Make life easier, make your decisions easier. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Stay with me. We're going to get into all that and more right after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Biz Dev Live. This is business development, not even selling it.
All right, so we're going to get right into it. I have a question early on from Susan Castelli. So right after we introduce Matt Baier, we'll get into that as well. About I'm so curious if organizers live the same as shoemakers have the worst shoes. So we'll definitely get into that question, Susan. Thanks so much for asking that. If you're watching this either live or on the replay, let us know where you're viewing from. I always enjoy hearing that information. Love to know where people are tuning in from. If you have questions, you help the show out by making it more interesting. So we want to hear from you. And here we go. I'm going to introduce my main man over here, Matt Baier. It is such a pleasure to have him on the show. We had a great conversation, and I really enjoy his approach to life. Matt has been the owner of Matt Baier Organizing in Stamford for the last 17 years. His team approach is the fun way to get it done in a day. Matt's team serves Fairfield and Westchester counties. Matt is the immediate past president of the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, Connecticut Chapter, and the best-selling author of The Circulation Solution, the ultimate approach to lasting clutter relief. Please welcome your guide to organizing and a better productive life, Mr. Matt Baier. Thanks for being on the show, Matt.
Thanks so much, Cameron. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's awesome to have you here. So talk to us a little bit about who you help, what you do exactly, because I can say organizer, and I think there's a lot of different ways people can go with that. But you really do some of the nitty gritty organizing on the graphic today. I'll throw that up real quick just to show one example of somebody's desk, right? Going from a pile, lots of piles, to a neat space where you can actually lay something down and work on it without having to push something over to the side. You can see that before and after picture down there. And there's plenty of before and after pictures on your website as well, which I love to see. Talk to us about who you help, companies you serve. Love to hear that.
Yeah. So most of our work these days is actually residential. We have worked with companies in the past, but mostly we work with busy families who are overwhelmed with clutter. They're doing everything right. That they're taking care of their top priorities. Usually, this double income family, working, raising kids, looking for college search. They're busy, and something's got to give, and it's the clutter, and that's when we get the call. We also work with, we do a lot of work with realtors, families who are moving, and they've got too much stuff, especially if they need to downsize. We help with the decluttering, and also moving in, unpacking, settling. With our team approach,
I imagine with realtors, there's a lot of, you're wanting to sell a house, so you want to declutter it and make sure it's presentable for the folks that are coming in, right?
Absolutely. And fast. I mean, that's the thing. There's usually a timetable. You want to get the home listed. And often the client's overwhelmed. They've been there for 10, 20, 30, decades. And there's a lot of a sentimental attachment, and you get too close to their stuff. And we have objective eyes and can make these decisions. We know exactly where to start, where to prioritize, and when not to push too hard. That's a really important part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, the longer I'm in a place, the more stuff, right, I collect, right? So in the closets, it doesn't ever seem like we go less. It always seems like we're piling in more. So I know we're going to get into that conversation today. How to is there a word for that? The collection of stuff over time?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. People use the word hoarding too loosely. No, it's just a collection. It's accumulation. It's life.
Accumulation, right? Yeah.
You need to have a plan. Stuff comes into our lives way too easily. You need to have a plan for it to head out.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's good, and it might be helpful to people too to sort of define. Because I've definitely we had a house actually close to ours that had a hoarding situation. You could tell the car outside just was loaded to it looked like water filling up a bottle. Just the way that it was filling up over time. Yeah, so that's definitely hoarding. But the accumulation of things, filling up your spaces, right? I think that's sort of more of a natural. Don't feel too bad. Give yourself some self-compassion. We did a show with Steve Spiro on Monday about self-compassion. Don't be too hard on yourself, right? The idea here is that this is natural stuff, and we're going to give some great strategies today to sort of work through this. Talk to us a little bit about your background, your history. What did little Matt Baier want to be when he grew up, and how did you eventually get into organizing, starting your own company?
Yeah, well, there was certainly there's no models of organizing when I was growing up. I wanted to be an illustrator, an artist. That was my desire. Look, if I'm being completely honest, I think one of my earlier goals, I wanted to be a pirate or a cowboy, something like that. But
I love it. I love it.
I've always been artistically inclined, and I never really believed you could make money from that. So I went to college, took a more traditional liberal arts route. Didn't exactly pursue a path that was more lucrative. I'm also fascinated with history. But what do I really want to be a history teacher? No. So I kind of started over and went to art school, and was worked in the Garm district for a number of years, did some freelance art, and brought me to the Jim Henson Company, which is a really cool place to be, working with Muppets. And I was in the design services department. I was an illustrator, an art director, and there was a lot of downsizing. And one of the people to go was my boss. And she said, "You're in charge now." And I didn't have any management background. So what I relied on was something that has actually always come naturally to me, which is organizing. So through things like clutter control, paper management, floor planning, and certainly time management, we had a very successful department, the design services department. And I realized when in 2004, Disney bought the Muppet property and put us out of work. And I decided I was liking the organizing aspects of what I was doing more than the licensing, which basically is what it was. It wasn't it wasn't the most creative work in the world, but it was licensing. I had learned about organizing from the show Clean Sweep, which was on TLC years ago. It was Peter, if anyone knows Peter Walsh, that was his first break. He was like the organizer on this show. It was a team of, it was always a couple with 2 rooms, 2 days, and there was a carpenter, an interior designer, and a professional organizer. This is the first I've ever heard of such a thing. Pretty much decided that's what I wanted to do within 2 months of hearing that such a thing existed. So,
and I just want to highlight this because this is something that I think, when people are talking about careers, I was having the conversation about this the other day. I think yesterday's show with Ardell Powell, when you learn how to do something, that gives you some opportunities and some avenues that you wouldn't necessarily have previously. So it's never a bad idea to invest in yourself, learn how to do something, investigate. Oh, wow, this is something I enjoy. What's the opportunities? Let me go ask somebody. Let me go find something. Let me go watch a show where somebody's doing something that I enjoy, because that can lead some really great ways. So I love that that's part of your story. I also wanted to shout out Susan Null, who's checking in. Great topic. I'm always looking for ideas and advice. We're definitely going to get to some great ideas and advice on organizing today. Keep going, Matt. So we had this conversation when we talked one-on-one too. My son's an artist, so that was a really great avenue for us to talk about. I loved the experience that you had, and you got into the Muppet Company, and we're talking about licensing. And I think every different career, somebody says, "Oh, you're working for the Muppet Company. That must have been amazing." But you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, and you can be really dissatisfied with, if you're a doctor, the forms you have to fill out. Maybe you love the operations, or maybe you love the forms you don't like. It goes both ways, right? So you find your path. And sometimes I've met a lot of people that have gone down these postgraduate degree roads. And the nice thing is they're very informed, very educated, have a great network. And when they decide, this isn't the path for me, it's easier to pivot. That's always going to happen, right? Within a career, that you're going to get someplace and maybe this isn't exciting for me anymore. So what was your big pivot?
So 2 things on that. One is that I realized kind of what you're saying about the doctors and lawyers, and the work. You can be doing something that's kind of enjoyable, but if you don't have the control, it can be a miserable experience, actually. Yeah. Whereas you could be doing something that's sort of more boring, but if you've got control over the situation, it could be more enjoyable. For me, the pivot, as you put it, would be that I'm able to be more creative, strangely, as an organizer than I was as an illustrator.
So talk to us a little bit about that. How are you creative as an organizer?
Yeah, so I have taken an approach to organizing where I can, they have training now for organizing. There's classes you can take. There's certificates you can get. I never did any of that. It just happened to be something that comes naturally to me, and so I was kind of making the rules up as I went along, and taking. I felt completely liberated to challenge a lot of the conventional wisdom about organizing and find a way that made sense. That's really what's motivated me. It's what motivated me to write a book. It's what motivated me to put together a team of organizers, and sort of find a new path. I eventually learned that there's quite a few organizers across the country that have a team of organizers, but I'm not aware of a lot in Connecticut, in the nearby area.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most impressive things about you is that you have been able to put together a team, a lot of businesses, and we were having this conversation again yesterday in terms of running a successful business that, for a lot of sole proprietors, especially the most difficult thing is building a team where you don't have to be in the mix for every single thing that you're doing. And I think organization is a big piece of that. So ideally, right, you're putting your ducks in a row, you're getting organized, you're building systems and processes, which I think is what we're going to be talking about today in terms of organizing your living space and your office and how you do things, right?
Yeah. And I read a book that I'm sure you're familiar with, the E-Myth Revisited.
Yes.
And what I liked about that is that it enabled me to take the technician out. That's the part that can be trained. I realized it didn't require my unique knowledge. It's something I was able to train. So there's the three pillars. There it is. So there's the technician, the admin, and the visionary. So I'm basically in the visionary role right now, and I'm able to delegate the admin and the technician part, which it's funny because the actual part I like is working in the field, getting people organized, which I do occasionally step in and handle. But I love looking at ways of getting this business getting the service out to more people and helping not only get systems set up, but in a way that you can stay organized. It's not just getting organized; it's staying organized. There's always those two parts, and it's you can get anybody to tidy up your room, but what's going to get it to stay that way? And that's kind of what I became fascinated by, and I'm sort of devoting my energies to more and more is what's it take to get to stay organized. I can't hear you right now.
All right, thank you. My technical prowess here on display. So I was having a conversation with a young lady that's working on my team, part of my staff that goes out and works events. And I was just having the conversation because she's, industrious and in the world and moving on up and just having that conversation around, getting to a place where the business, you have assets, where the money is coming in and you don't have to work a job, right? So within your business, getting to a place where you can pick and choose the assignments that you want to work on. That's a lot. That's a happier place to be than, because I think everybody that starts a business, especially if there was any passion or joy around what they started the business around, probably enjoys the technician part. I mean, that's talked about a lot about in E-Myth, she's a baker, she enjoys, she wants to grow the business. And so you get to that place though, where, you have to do all these other things within your business. And so if you don't manage that and master that, it's not going to be fun because you're not going to be doing exactly what you want. It's going to be overwhelming. You're going to get burnt out, right? Doing exactly what you love. Anybody who's ever been a DJ in high school like myself knows, DJing at home is fun, but once you start getting into the payment thing and charging people and you got to go carry the stuff in and people giving you requests, it's not so fun anymore unless you master that and really get that system down to where you know exactly what kind of gigs you want to take and you have the option and ability to take the gigs you want. Ways today. I know number one, circulation prevents accumulation. You wrote a book on this. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So the circulation solution is based on the idea that organizing is not a destination. You think of it, I'm going to get my house organized and then I'll be organized. I look at organizing as a vehicle, the vehicle you drive to get to where you want to be, whatever your priorities are. And that includes my business as well, because you used the example from the E-Myth, the baker. It was less about the baking in the book. She said it's the caring. That was her message. for me, our mission is to take the less important things out of the way so that you can get to the most important things. It's always a subtractive process. And I realize that I don't need to be the one actually doing that to fulfill that mission. So what I talk about in the book is a plan for movement in a series of manageable, reliable steps. That's what the circulation solution is. The best example is something that most of us are already doing, which is washing dishes. It's a series of manageable, reliable steps. Dishes come from the cabinet, which you can reliably find, come to the counter for plating, table for eating, sink for washing, drying rack for drying, and back to the cabinet again. Each one's a manageable, reliable step. If any one of them breaks down, if you have dishes piling up in the sink, suddenly you're out of counter space. You don't have the dishes in the cabinet. It all falls apart. So at this stage where we're looking for systems to stay organized, we look at what is not manageable and reliable, and what's it take to break it down and maybe make it easier. And this applies to certainly the paper. That's the big one. Laundry, just about everything. I can't hear you, Cameron.
Yeah, well, my technical prowess on display again, Matt. All right, so talk to us a little bit about, because I mean, dishes. Okay, we my home. We wash, as I was talking about this in the self-compassion episode, we wash dishes by hand too. We don't even have a dishwasher, and we have 4 kids.
Rare. Very rare.
And, that works for us because we just wash as we go. Talk about, circulation, right? We're washing as we go. We practice kind of the best practice of things, and it's just efficient. We have a small kitchen in our home. It's not the most desirable kitchen in the world, but it works, and we do what we need to do in it. And that's very different from the paperwork on my desk. I know, even my wife, who has a lot less paperwork in her life, but stuff will accumulate on the television stand where I drop her Macy's stuff and her bills and different things that are specific to her. What do we do about the paper? What do we do about the things that we're not utilizing all the time, right? So I just had a new washer installed, and they handed me the old hoses, and I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want to throw that away because I might utilize it. Now, there's an inner voice going in as I'm carrying it to the closet. Do I really need to hang on to this? Should I, or is it going to just be something that accumulates? Well, I might need this. Where do we go with that? So I imagine there's a lot of things. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you. First, let's talk about the paperwork, because I know everybody's going to have that issue, right, with paperwork. And then let's get into like the accumulation of things that we might need.
Yeah. One of the things I say in my book is that decisions are easier to make when seasoned with time, TIME. And that the hose you mentioned, your new.
I just want to shout out Braden Daniels, manageable, reliable steps. So I mean, that's where we're going to be talking about, right? Manageable, reliable steps today. And yep. Poor Susan Castelli, she's having a poor connection, but we know this will be available on the replay for you, Susan. So thanks for trying. Go ahead, Matt.
So with paper, often what I find is people are. They come to me when they say, "Oh, we're ready to get organized. Here's the folders." Not yet. Paper needs to circulate in stages, just like dishes. And I always start by breaking it down by 4 essential stages. And there are 4 stages of priority, and that priority changes over time. So the first stage is running, then sitting, sleeping, and dead. I find it helps to personify your paper. So running files are things you want to make a point of acting on. These are your bills to pay, your projects to do. You don't want these out of sight, out of mind, because they need to be compelling so you don't forget about them. Sitting files are things you simply need to be able to find reliably. This is what belongs in a file cabinet at your fingertips, but you don't need it out where you can see it. A lot of things that we keep out is just because we fear if we put it away, we'll be able to find it. You need a reliable filing system, so you trust that you can find it within seconds. Sleeping files are things you're keeping just in case. These are your archives. We find lots of filing cabinets clogged with these, which is not necessary. If they're sleeping files, you can store them more remotely. That's why you want to distinguish them. Most important stage to recognize. And then eventually you keep those for a certain amount of time. And this is where it's easy to make decisions, and they can graduate to dead files. This would be like your tax supporting materials. Maybe you keep if you're not doing taxes electronically, if you maybe you keep the returns indefinitely because they don't take up much space, but all those invoices and statements and supporting material after 7 years, really, I think 3 is safe if it's personal files. It can go. You don't need it. And in theory, they become recycled into new paper, new bills to pay, and the cycle continues. But that's where we start, and it's amazing how much space you can free up just by recognizing things that you don't need at your fingertips.
Talk to me about sorting through the mail pile, right? What's your strategy? The mail comes in, right? Because this is probably, you talk about the sleeping files is probably the most critical place in terms of long-term storage, right? So space, right? We're talking about space there, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, because it takes up the most space, so get them out.
So get your rules, figure out with your tax professional, if you're saving statements, that sort of thing, what's the appropriate time to get it out, and ask that question, and then mark it, put it on the wall, make sure so you can go through at some sort of time slot in the year and get rid of some of those sleeping files that now become dead files. And so you can clear up more space. And so things aren't accumulating in places because you've run out of file cabinet space. But probably one of the most challenging things, people's desks, right? The piles that rise on people's desks. So getting through the mail pile or paperwork coming on your desk, what's your methodology for making sure that throughout the course of a day, papers are not piling up and creating this mess that you don't even want to tackle?
Absolutely. So my advice on mail is stop thinking of it as mail. Mail stops being mail the second it comes out of your mailbox. Mail is the stuff between sender and your mailbox. Once it comes out, it's bills to pay, it's statements to file, maybe a few items to review, and there's going to be maybe magazines to read. Each one of these has an action associated with it. And of course, there's going to be a lot of junk mail that you should discard immediately. Dead files can be dead on arrival in the form of junk mail.
I love that.
Don't wait the 7 years.
My recycle bin stays very close to my desk and is used very frequently. The circle receptacle filing system gets used quite a bit.
So yeah, absolutely. That's a very important organizing tool. But the main thing is I think we associate that, oh gosh, I've got to deal with the mail. Well, you relieve yourself the pressure of processing the mail and just sort it. Sorting is the key. Sorting is what frees up your dining room table or kitchen counters. It's breaking things into manageable, reliable stages. You don't have to pay these bills now, but get them to the bill paying area. You should be able to break up your mail within 2 minutes every day. And 2 minutes is something you don't put off, but it leaves you with a clear table. That's breaking things into manageable, reliable stages that allow things to circulate. And circulation prevents accumulation.
Yeah, no, I've definitely tried to get into my routine, handle a paper once. So it comes across my desk and I'm not moving it, but it comes across my desk. And if it's a bill that I can pay, I pay it and file it. If it's a bill that I can, or I need to question on it, I try to do that follow up immediately, or put it in what I think you would call a running running file, that's sitting to the side of my desk. That's stuff to do that I can't, for whatever reason, do now, or I'm putting it on my calendar and actually getting rid of the paper, because the paper may not even be something that I need to keep. It may just be a reminder, or something, an event that's coming up or something like that. And so rather than even file it in that running file where I may not get to it, which is more than likely, put it on my calendar and call it a day. And then the paper actually goes into the nice blue filing receptacle, and I'm done with it. Right.
Yeah. So notion of only handle it once, the Ohio method, is actually one of the conventional organizing wisdoms that I actually challenge. And here's why. It kind of puts too much pressure to deal with everything at once. We don't always have the time to pay a bill, or a lot of other things that need.
Our follow up with the IRS is.
These are time-consuming things that take a special focus, which you don't always have. You're doing a million things, but if you can at least move it forward to the right next step, that makes all the difference in the world. That's circulating things. To keep with the analogy of how blood circulates, it moves through these valves in our body. It stops and then goes to the next stage. It's the same with paper, with mail. I think that's my issue with the Ohio method, is because if it means you're just dealing with a pile and you're only dealing with what's on top, you're
not looking after your priorities the right way.
Exactly. That's it. Because you don't know, maybe there's a higher priority in the bottom of the pile. You haven't worked.
So I think that leads amazingly right into our second big takeaway, right? You must prioritize before you organize. So if there's something that's pressing on your desk, should you be sorting the mail? Should you be doing some of these activities, right? What are your priorities? So how do you get people to prioritize? Because accumulation can be stressful. There's stuff coming in. How do you get people to prioritize the right way on stuff? I know we're going to talk about a book that you would recommend to everybody. What's Essential, right? How do you prioritize and teach people to prioritize so that they can keep their working space organized?
Yeah, that is actually the perfect segue. What I mean by prioritize to organize is that when folks contact me for organizing help, it's often a million things that I know we're not going to be able to deal with all at once. They think, I've got organizing help. Let's unload. Let's get it all out right now. I always spend quite a lot of time getting to, well, what's the top priority right now? What was the reason you picked up the phone? What was that pain? What was there something that got lost, a bill that didn't get paid? Often I mentioned that we do the work with folks trying to sell their home. They might talk about, they want to get the photos organized. And I always say, listen, the main goal here is to show your house, get it listed by this date. Yeah, it's good. We can help you with organizing photos, but not now. Let's focus on this. This is what needs to happen to get to this goal, because it's so important. A big part of my job is simply managing expectations, because it's gotten us into trouble when people think, we're these magicians that are going to fix every organizing issue.
And let me say, I think that's important for every single business. I know that's a big takeaway from the last 10 years of running Toth event staffing, managing people's expectations. Because if they think you're going to do X, Y, Z, and you deliver amazing service that's ABC, they're not going to be happy. Even though you did an amazing job, their expectation was this, you did that. And so it's never going to lead to a happy customer. So managing those expectations is such a big deal, whatever industry, whatever profession, whatever you're doing, whatever your role. I talk about it in setting up and that first bit of communication when you talk to a client. And that is something that I think when we're talking about organizing and being more productive and having more time in your day, man, when you set expectations with people, it cuts through so much of the, to use our current president's favorite word, malarkey, right? It's just one of those things. If you are not if you're not utilizing that tool in your toolbox, start today. Manage those expectations. Set up those expectations. Let people know what to expect from you, because it's going to make your job so much easier. I may not be able to get this email to you today. It may come Thursday or Friday. If they know that, they're not texting you and emailing you, where's the deliverable, right? If they understand the expectation, it's going to save you time, similar to that paper that may be circulating because you haven't filed it or sorted it into a pile, and so it's getting circulated, not it's just eating away at your time, right? So that kind of thing with the client, I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I say it's important to prioritize is because everybody's got different priorities, and priorities are always changing. And it may be really clear in your head what your priority is, just as it is clear in your head that somebody knows what their expectations are. Yeah, you've really got to get that clear right from the beginning. We even with clients, we send out before every job, we send out a what to expect email. It repeats what we talked about in the consultation, just so there's no misunderstandings. They know exactly what to expect when the team shows up, and having that clarity of what to expect puts everybody at ease.
So, and if I'm reading you right, and I'm getting the message here, we should be prioritizing system building and process building. I know people I have a meeting with, and one of the things that they do right after that meeting is send me basically a summary of that meeting. And I've had people, I've asked a question, they sent me a summary of a previous meeting because they were able to go back to that, right? It makes your job easier, makes it easier to find things in email. I love that piece. I want to just shout out Braden Daniels, recognizing gaps in process. These personal organizational strategies can relate well to organizational strategies for business. Absolutely, right? So talk to us about, I know this book you wanted to recommend was Essential. So how does this essentialism help with the prioritization process?
Yeah, the book's by Greg McCune. I read it a couple of years back. It sort of pushed even further on the prioritizing and why it's so important, why it works so well. And it's going further than I've ever seen anyone go before, sort of the whole minimizing thing. And the book is really summarized by this one illustration. I'm a big believer in the power of illustration, but it's a simple line drawing of a circle with arrows shooting out in every direction around it. They're short little arrows. And then there's another circle with a big, long single arrow, and it's showing you how far you can go if you're going one direction. Then he spends the whole book explaining how that works and how you can do that. And to me, the toughest part of it is not figuring out what you want, but what you don't want, or what's less important, or what you can sort of park on a shelf for now. That's why I like it, and that's why I recommend it. I always choose. I've taken to choosing a word per year instead of a New Year's resolution. After reading this book, that year it was published, and that's the year I published my book. And then
I love it.
year after that was health. But yeah, that's the idea. And it's Yeah, I believe
And focus, right? Really just focusing, right? Using that focus as your filter.
yeah, you can make it focus. It takes a lot to do it, but when you can bring that focus on one thing, you'll go further than if you're spread out all over the place. And we try to do that with the team organizing. There's always getting these temptations to go in these different directions. Oh, you should add a shredding service or a hauling service, or you should. You know what? We're good with this team. We're just getting better and better at the team organizing, to the point where sometimes we say, you know what, we could do this in a day, and other people can't do that.
Well, it's going to be interesting as your organization grows and expands, because I talk a lot about this. Big lesson learned from Toth Event Staffing is bringing other types of revenue into the organization. And I think going back to, our definitely one of my favorite books, The E-Myth Revisited, getting yourself to a place where the whole business is turnkey and you can really step away from the business, then that allows you, you can build capital, you can build assets within the company, and then you can take on some other things. You go purchase another business, a perfect side business or a referral-based business where we can start paying ourselves. There's this little company over here that Shred's company, they got their system and their process down, and they've done what we've done, but maybe they're worth a little bit less, and we're able to afford to buy them. And let me take that opportunity and pick up that business that I don't have to be involved with, because definitely in staying organized too. I think this, whenever I'm taking a part of an association meeting, something along those lines, there's always a big focus on, are you putting something into your life that is an asset or creating a liability? Is this something you should say no to because you don't have enough time, you don't have enough resources to actually fully commit to that thing? So as you're building your business, are you saying yes to the things that help you and expand your business, and saying no to the things that are going to create liabilities and just create a job for yourself that really isn't necessary? And I love that bit of organizing the calendar and personal life and making sure that your priorities are focused, going back to the essentialism. My focus is here. This is what I'm trying to do. And so if it isn't helping that, it's out of the picture, right? And I know that a lot of people have different priorities in their life, family, children, everything. But whether you're segmenting, you got your hours of the workday, you got your family life, you can really get organized with what each of those time blocks in your day, which is another big organizing thing. I know we're talking about spaces mainly today, but we've talked about organizing your day and your priorities and time blocks. Just while I'm on that, what do you recommend for timing for organizing your house? We talked a little bit about the accumulation of things before, and we didn't really kind of do the deep dive there. Circulation, right, beats back accumulation. How do you prioritize the things that you keep in your home, even though you may or may not need something?
Mm-hmm. So one of the plans for circulation we talk about is for mostly for clothing, but for anything that we outgrow or don't need anymore, is to have a built-in, what I call a donation depot. I recommend, just as every garage has a trash bin, a recycling bin, I recommend a donation depot on a dedicated shelf just to things heading out. The reason for that is it's a more manageable, reliable step, as opposed to, you wouldn't believe, I got tons of bags of donations in the attic. Meanwhile, you're driving past a Goodwill or whatever. It's like, those things in the attic, I'll get those another time. But if you've got two bins on a shelf at eye level, inches away from the trunk of your car, you've made that step as manageable and reliable as possible, so those things actually get out. You're not going to pick up like one item, on the other hand, and say, I'm going to drive this to the dump. It doesn't happen. But if you have a place to collect it, gets to a trunk load, out it goes.
So you're saying a good strategy. Here's something that I may or may not need in the future. Let me put it in the donation pile, because chances are, this isn't absolutely something essential. And if I can recycle it because it's something good, somebody can use it.
Absolutely.
Let me put it in this pile. That might turn into the garage sale pile. That might turn into the donation pile. But that designates a spot for things to go that you don't absolutely need. It's not a tool that needs to stay in the house and around. It's not something that you're depending on. It's an extra thing that you, otherwise it's just accumulating in a corner.
Yeah. So with every job we do, we'll have a donation pile, we have a discard pile. But getting to what you're saying about selling, we also have a sell pile. Quite a different decision. And I'll give you one more, a give to pile. If you know someone specifically, it gets give to, quite different from donate, because you have someone specific in mind, whereas donate, you don't care who gets as long as it doesn't go in the landfill. So
I'm trying to think through people that are like, all right, you just said, Matt, in my overfilled space, I have to create 3 more spots. What do you say to somebody that's like, I don't have the space to do that, which is very similar to the person, I don't have time to write down my schedule, right? I don't have the space to organize my space, right?
Yeah, they just have the donate place. Because listen, if you're determined to sell something, selling takes a lot of work, no matter how you do it. I mean, I'm trying to sell a table on Facebook Marketplace, and I get no takers of what I do. They say I'll be there tomorrow. They don't show up. It's a lot of work. You could go the eBay route. Somebody, they take a big percentage. It's so donating is the easiest thing. If you're determined to get everything to the right place, you're right. You're going to run out of spaces. I mean, we get some clients that are absolutely obsessed about every single thing recycling to the right place. The battery's going to this place, the light bulb's going to that place, and I want this charity get this, and this charity get that. Listen, that's lovely, but it takes away time and it takes away energy. That's one of the big factors people don't factor into organizing. It's about balancing 3 resources: space, time, and energy. It's a really great example of deprioritizing so that you can prioritize. That's essentialism right there. It's like, okay, yeah, it's important to respect the environment and get things to the right hands, but compared to getting this house cleared out so I can get a home office moved in, maybe, or maybe I'm creating a baby's room here, whatever your top priority is. It's balancing this out, and that's kind of what we help with, is making decisions, because the best definition of clutter is postponed decisions. Barbara Hemphill, an organizing pioneer, came up with that. And
I love that. Space, time, energy. And so how do you get more space? How do you get more time? How do you get more energy to do these things? You follow these simple, reliable steps, right? You create the stuff, planning, making sure that you have a plan, a place for things to go. Obviously, we got Matt here. If you're in the local area, Connecticut, Westchester, right? Reach out to Matt. He can help you with your space. But ideally, you're moving into a new space. Get this stuff started nice and early. If you're tackling I know we're moving into the fall winter months here now, but if you're tackling spring cleaning or fall cleaning or winter cleaning or summer cleaning, you got that time. Putting these strategies into place, putting a thing in, labeling things, right? I know the big challenge for us is just, okay, we get into the closet, what's in what, right? Because you got things in boxes and they're stacked on top of each other, so maximize your space. I know you've done a great job getting things into shelves rather than piles inside stuff so that people can get access. So you got the circulation things. I love those pieces to the puzzle. All right, let's get into the third takeaway here. It's our job to make space, not judgments. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, one of the number one question we get when I do a consultation is this the worst you've ever seen? It never is, because I've seen some things. We used to work with hoarders because social services knew we had a team, and they said, "Can you help us out?" And we used to do that for a while. It's very hard, draining work, but we're pretty good at it. anyway, so I'm able to say, no, it's not. And besides, it's our job to make space, not judgments. And there's almost always like an audible sigh of relief when they hear that, because they assume there's often the assumption that we're passing judgment as organizers, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We're there for what your priorities are, and we don't really care about how you got there. They're probably, as I said at the beginning of this, they're probably perfectly reasonable reasons. Something has to give. There's so many demands these days.
Without your problem, my solution wouldn't exist, right? I think that's something that, especially when you have a solution, hey, I'm here to help. That's why I exist. This is what I do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is hard. It can be very hard to stay organized, especially if you got too much stuff. And it's getting, it's easier and easier to bring stuff into our homes. I mean, I use Amazon all the time, but finding homes for things, getting rid of the just the boxes that accumulate. Things come in so easily. Things are given away for free. You take it in, but is there a plan for things to head out? Really, no, and that's what we help with.
It'll be interesting for folks that are watching this, and if you're watching this on the replay, hashtag replay. But do you have an Amazon addiction? Believe me, I know there's people out there that do. I try to be calm with it. I try to just replace regular stuff. I know I've had times over the last few years where I was on Amazon a little bit too much and going a little too crazy with it. But one of the things, and I have a box to prove that's by my desk of like technology equipment. As I was starting up this thing, I was just, all right, this microphone, and it's still sitting there and has been touched, not circulating, right? Do you have an Amazon? We'd love to hear from you. Do you have it? I see the Prime trucks going around my neighborhood. I know Amazon doing a terrific business, so I know a lot of people out there are going overdrive on the shop on Amazon. Let us know. How do you manage your deliveries? We're in that culture now. All the shopping's online. How do you manage these packages coming in the door? For folks that are dealing with lots of packages coming in the door, do you have a strategy to deal with packages and whatnot coming in the door, Matt?
Well, it's just like everything else. It's break it down to manageable, reliable stages. If you are selling things on Amazon, recognize that that's a project, and a project needs to be broken down into tasks. So have a place for the packages that you keep for sending, and distinguish the size. Get clear on the sizes that you never use, and get them straight to the recycling bin. But yeah, a lot of people. You never want to go to the approach of, I better hang on to that. That might come in handy one day.
Well, that's like my approach on everything.
Yeah.
I can just say I'm not as bad as like my father-in-law, who would, he's looking at me dirty if I throw something away. And I'm like, we don't need that. We don't. It's not necessary. I know that it was valuable one time, but it's broken now and it doesn't work, and we don't want to hang on to it. It's just taking up space. And he's sitting there like, no, I think I can manage a way to pile this into a corner someplace and we can hang on to this. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Listen.
I keep way too much stuff as it is. We don't need to keep this particular item.
But listen, the reason I am the way I am is my father grew up in the Depression. My mother grew up in wartime Britain with scarcities. Something comes in your life, you hang on to it because you never know when it will come in handy. So we had piles. We had piles in my household that my mother would cover with a sheet because she couldn't stand to look at them, but she couldn't deal with them. So it shapes you. But yeah, it's easier to hold on to this stuff than to make a decision. And that's our primary value, is helping folks make these decisions. And it comes from, prioritizing. It's saying, when you can say no to this thing, you're saying yes to something else.
Yeah, and I want to just, I think, because you're saying you don't make judgment, but I think people shouldn't judge themselves. They should be compassionate with themselves.
Absolutely.
Give themselves the grace to say, listen, this is not a thing that is unique to you and you alone. So many people are challenged with finding space and organizing their space. Take it one step, one baby step at a time, create those good habits, create those systems and processes, and you will have a neater space. Take some time, block some time out so that you can actually do it. If you don't put it on a calendar, it won't get done, right? And then if you do need help, seek help. Get somebody like Matt Baier Organizing to come in and help you with this stuff. If it's in a place where you really need the help, you don't have the time, offload it. I always mention 4-hour work week, and he talks a lot about in that book, do the things that you love to do and get the things that you don't want to do, right? There we go. There's the book. Get the things that you don't enjoy doing off your table. So recognize if this is not something that's in your priority, it's not in your focus, it's not something you want to deal with, offload it. Get somebody else involved. That might be a family member. It might be a professional service, but get it off of your plate so that you can focus on the things that you truly love. Don't let this hamper your mind space. Matt, tell everybody where they can reach you. And I don't know if there's some kind of closing tips you want to leave everybody with, but really would just love you to let everybody know how to get in touch with you. I really want to shout you out. You're such a great guy to talk to. And I want to make sure that people can get in touch with you. And I just want to shout out Braden real quick. When it comes to magic, I find that I need to buy multiple quantities of the same thing because it may break and go out of stock. So I have duplicates of items that I do need and hard to organize. So maybe we can give a closing out tip for Braden. Braden's a great guy. Matt, if you've never met him, I'm hoping that you guys connect. He teaches leadership through magic. Really cool guy. Maybe we can help him organize his multiples of devices and things that he's pulling into his magic shop.
All right. So, real simple. Name of my company is my name. It's Matt Baier. So it's mattbaier.com is the name of my website, where you can get a free consultation, or just email questions and talk. Happy to help. To answer Braden's question about his extra stuff, one of the things, and get my book too. It's at Amazon, available at Amazon. You can download it for free on my website, The Circulation Solution. And in it, I talk about the model of the showroom versus the stock room. I don't know if I've got time to get into detail, but it's looking at your home the way you see a showroom floor where things are, where it's bright, well lit, inviting, limited amount of inventory in the showroom floor, but a lot of activity. Stockroom, you worry less about what it looks like. You could take more advantage of vertical space for storage. So you can fit more stuff in, and there's less activity. These are generally our garages, basements, attics. But it's keeping this separation. But here's the key thing. Things in your stockroom space must be reliably findable. That way it supports your showroom space. You can put items, you can trust that you can put things away and that you can find it. When you can do that, you'll keep less in your showroom space. We actually start typically in stockroom spaces because there tends to be low value items. You can open up space there and drain a lot of the excess from the showroom spaces. That's probably not enough, but
No, I love it. And I put the website on the screen. You can actually go there to the website, download the book for free. The book is, I'm just going to make sure I look at the title so I don't mess it up. The Circulation Solution, The Ultimate Organizing Approach for Lasting Clutter Relief by Matt Baier. Guys, check it out. Matt, thank you so much. I think you helped a lot of people today. Really looking forward to people's comments on this. Let us know if Matt helped you, and really reach out to Matt if you're having some issues around organizing. I know he's happy to help. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Matt. I'm going to play us off with the BizDev theme, but I'll let you have the closing remarks here. I'll let you say goodbye to everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks so much, Cameron. It was a pleasure.
And Braden says showroom versus stockroom. I can work with that. I'll check out your book, Matt. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you, Braden. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to the Susans for checking in. We appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And I will see you tomorrow with Mark Evans. Have a great time.
BizDev Live, BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. BizDev Live, BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, BizDev Live, BizDev Live, business development, not even selling it. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T, BizD with C. Brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. BizDev Live, BizDev Live.